recording.
Give me the signal when I say something.
It's going, it's on. It's
Oh, I made
going.
them up.
Oh,
Good?
yeah, yes.
Just take my over.
Sorry, sir. I didn't understand it
You're
first.
good, you're good. Got it? All right, guys, we are about to start, and the recording is going now, so we can go ahead and get ourselves situated. Thank you.
Good afternoon, School Board, Dr. Hernandez and district staff. The time is 5 p.m. on February 6, 2024, and I call this board workshop meeting of the Edgewood Independent School District School Board to order. I will begin with roll call. Mr. James Hernandez will not be able to join us today, or Dr. James Hernandez. Mr. Guerra?
Present.
Mr. Frank Espinosa? Mr. Luis Gomez is also unable to join us today. Mr. Michael Valdez,
Present.
Mr. Richard Santoyo,
Here.
and I, Martha Garcia, am present. Let the record show that a quorum of the Edgewood Independent School District School Board is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Will you please join me for a pledge of allegiance of the United States and Texas flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la república cual representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Madam President, I would like to ask if we can allow our police chief to give us an update on our officers that are, is he coming in? Okay. We do have, for those of you that don't know this, we have a couple of officers that have recently been involved in some sort of accident that I'd like for us to get an update on. So we can turn our attention over to our chief. He's going to give us a very quick update on our two officers, and then I request that we have a moment of silence.
Thank you. I appreciate, do appreciate the moment of silence. A few weeks ago, one of our officers was working off duty at the Alamo Dome. I'm sorry, the AT&T Center. And being who she is, they gave her a break. She went to a gas station because she was in uniform. A civilian approached her and explained to her, listen, my vehicle ran out of gas on Highway 35. Not missing a beat, Officer Eggleston says, come on, I'll take you. She does have police lights on her personal vehicle. So she drove into the area, they got out of the vehicle, she turned on her overhead lights and began to put gas in. The vehicle still wouldn't start. Instead of leaving the civilian stranded, the officer pulled her vehicle to the side and thought maybe the vehicle needs a boost. As she was preparing to boost his vehicle, another vehicle came and struck her, right, causing serious bodily injury. She fractured her skull and she suffered a traumatic brain injury, so much so that they had to put a probe in her to release the pain. The phone call that I got that night was a terrible phone call. The phone call that I got was saying, Chief, you need to come identify your officer, because she actually passed away at the scene. So as I'm driving over there, that's the only information that I have. Luckily, when I got there to the actual hospital, Samson, the medical team, they managed to revive her, did whatever miracle that those hospital workers did. You know, I'm very grateful to them. Since then, they told us that she might have to stay in a medically induced coma for a while. She actually didn't last in that medically induced coma as long as they thought. Now she's out of it. She is awake. She is responding, but it's going to be a long process that they're telling that she may have to learn how to walk again, and we have to learn how to speak again. But to come from, hey, Chief, identify your officer to this, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. In between, Sergeant Galvan, who is amazing here, was working on doing a fundraiser and providing, you know, family support for the officer. While she was doing that, she became gravely ill and had to be taken away to the hospital as well. They had to do an emergency operation on her. So Sergeant Galvan is also out. While this is occurring, I have another officer who actually beat cancer, and they wanted to do something fun. So her and her husband took a motorcycle drive together because, you know, they were celebrating her beating cancer. And while they were doing that, they were struck by another vehicle. The officer's husband has since passed away, and she suffered a traumatic injury to her Achilles tendon. We don't know if she's going to ever fully recover and walk again. While that was occurring, while that was going on, we had an employee that we were concerned for their welfare. And here at Edgewood, we make it a general practice because we care about our employees. We conduct welfare checks. And one of our officers went to go do a welfare check on our employee on the way back into the district. That officer was also struck by a vehicle. It was total damage to both vehicles, and the officer was taken to the hospital. Luckily, she suffered contusions to her knees and a concussion. She's at home for a few days, but the doctor was seeing that if there's nothing further with the concussion, she may return to work. So any prayers or good thoughts that you have, I welcome you for our department. Even though we're going through this hardship, we're still continuing to try to provide the best mission that we can to our kids and our community and our staff. But thank you for allowing me the time to talk about our office. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Will you join us on the moment of silence?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. we come to the section on communication from citizens, but before I invite anybody up, I would like to read the statement. Comments shall be limited to current board agenda items. The speaker will be informed when he or she has 1 minute remaining. Speakers who engage in personal attacks or using insulting, profane, threatening, or abusive language during any board meeting shall be ruled out of order by the presiding officer and may be escorted from the board meeting by district police officers. Any concerns or complaints regarding employees, public officials, students, or parents should be resolved via the appropriate complaint process as stated in BED logo. Pursuant to 551.042 of the Texas Government Code, no board member or administrator may respond to a member of the public unless such response is recitation of district policy or a statement of specific factual information. Please be advised that citizens are especially board members shall refrain from speaking over one another during the meeting out of respect for the speaker that has the floor. I would like to call Ms. Agapita Jaramillo.
Good afternoon, Board of Trustees, Superintendent. I'm here today to question item 5C, discussion to terminate Senate Bill 1882 contract agreement between Edgewood ISD and the Texas A&M University and San Antonio Institute for School and Community Partnerships for the Winston Intermediate School of Excellence. Okay, so we offer school choices. Realistically, charter schools within our own district. And the district decided to partner with these 1882 campuses because we wanted an opportunity. We wanted an opportunity to receive funds. These schools, however, Winston in particular, has invested a lot of money and time. So my question to you is, did we do the right thing? And did we do the right thing? Because many of these campuses are low in enrollment and academic performance. You know, is the community going to receive reasons for the breach of contract? What's going to happen to the community garden? What's going to happen to the murals? Is there an evaluation report or a final report of this program? I think we're entitled to know if this 1882 campus helped us. Will there be any penalties for the breach of contract? Are we going to have to dish out in-kind services? Are we going to have to allow them to stay, remain there, and we pick up the cost for utilities and maintenance? The other thing is, I feel that decisions need to be made on repurposing these campuses. And there needs to be community input, either via survey, town halls, and community meetings, because there is a lot of negativity, especially due to the closure of the schools. And not because of the need, because we all know that we needed to close some campuses, just like every other district is doing. But there is lack of parent engagement, and I can assure you that at these redesign, meetings, there was not enough community engagement. And so we need to assure that we need to involve the community when it comes to repurposing the schools, and we need to let the community know what's going to happen to Winston. Thank you.
Okay, sir, do you have a report?
I do. Thank you.
Excuse me, I signed up for public comment also. You should have received my request at 3:15. Do we have another one?
Let me check.
We have a photo of the form. On my docs.
Let me make sure it came through. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
We good? Which item? Which item?
I'm sorry.
Which item?
Oh, I'm sorry. 5A,
Okay.
You do have it?
the travel.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Herrera?
It was actually two items, 5A and 5Y. Should have it noted on the wall.
The form just says, oh, you're right. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent, staff, and community. I'm here to express my disappointment at the last special call meeting on January 25th, which was held at 4:30. I'm not sure if it was to hopefully think the community wouldn't show up and talk on behalf of Trustee Valdez and show support for him. Today, you'll be discussing Agenda Item 5Y, discussion of board meeting minutes. I urge you to retract incorrect statements made in the resolution, specifically concerning page 2, paragraphs 3 and 5. These allegations are not true. It's unfortunate that this board hired a biased third-party law firm, Welsh Gallegos, whose attorney, Tony Resendez, is good friends with General Counsel Juan Cruz, and who now works for him to complete the investigation. And even having a witness to all these events, still proceeded to include these false claims on the resolution, but failed to hold accountable the rest of the board and the superintendent who have been unethical. When will you be held accountable, publicly reprimanded? Since when is it okay to commit sexual harassment, threaten a trustee, and falsify residency, and look the other way to unethical behavior? I see you will be discussing another trip to Galveston, to TASB in Galveston today. I hope all board members are on their best behavior and do not embarrass the district. And remember, this is not a vacation. You're there to learn and advocate for our district. Thank you. And also, here is my grievance form. I sent you all an email back on the 1st and have not received a reply. I sent it to your general counsel, Juan Cruz, your superintendent, and your school board president, and the school board email. So here I'm delivering the formal complaint. Thank you.
Joe, you can go ahead and bring up. Thank you, sir. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move right along with my comments. I have just a few comments. I do want to set up the evening's conversations tonight. First and foremost, I do want to remind everybody, this is our Black History Month here in Edgewood. The actual pictures you see here, if you've seen my presentations, you know I always like to use pictures from our students in the district. These are actual members of our community. I think it's important that we highlight individuals that are working in our community, that are an influence in our schools, and that, quite frankly, represent the students in our school district. I think that's really important. So I do want to remind you, and I do want to ask you to be very intentional about making sure that we are providing that level of education to our students, because everybody's story matters. That's not anything new with me. Since I came in, that's something that I've always worked for, is remembering that everybody's story matters. This is also National School Counseling Week. Obviously, this is a huge part and a very important part of the work that we provide to our students in our schools. While it's extremely important that we provide the academic support to students, it is equally as important that we provide social emotional support to our students. So In fact, this Thursday, we're going to have a breakfast for all of our counselors in our school district, highlighting their contributions and the work that they do for our students. So again, this is National School Counseling Week. That doesn't mean that's the only week of the year we remember them. Our board took quite a few very strong actions 3 years ago and allowed administration, the recommendation that we brought is that we have enough counselors in our schools to support the work that's going. In fact, in our comprehensive high schools, we have more counselors than most school districts do for the size of schools that we have, and I think this is really important. Our secondary schools have social and emotional learning counselors that are specifically dedicated for that work, and then of course we have academic counselors too. So I want to thank the board for taking that action. I think it was about 3 years ago now. The other thing we're doing too is also highlighting our crossing guards. Now there is, as far as I know, there's not necessarily a national holiday or even local holiday. But last year at the request and actually the feedback that I got from some of our principals and some of our folks, we started doing a breakfast for our crossing guards in the district. Now they are not Edgewood ISD employees, but that doesn't matter. The reason I put up the symbol of the city of San Antonio is because they are employed by the city, but nonetheless they serve our children. And so we are going to honor them actually tomorrow morning for a breakfast. And it's not just the actual folks you see out on the street. It is also some folks on our campuses that actually specifically at Bardendale. We have 2 teacher assistants that do morning duty every day. So we're going to highlight them too. So again, people's story matters. It's a great way of contributing to two-way communication among our parents and of course among our employees. I would ask and challenge everybody to remember that doing things the way we've always done in the 20, 30 years ago is not working anymore. We've got to engage our folks where it matters. And I will tell you, we have had some really good conversations with our crossing guards and our counselors when you engage them and parents in a different format. It doesn't always have to be the traditional way. We want to do things a little more innovative in the school district. The other thing we also want to report out to the community and to the board. Board, a few months ago when we made the decision with Rethink, Redesign, some of the challenges that you asked of us and that you asked us to make sure that we did was that we provided a la carte service to our parents to investigate the choices they had. I think one of the comments we had this evening was about choice. So coincidentally, it's a coincidence that we're actually going to talk about this. We are actually taking our bilingual parents. A lot of times we want to make sure that our folks who don't fully understand the language, beyond just wearing the headphones, which is important, don't get me wrong, but that we actually provide them a tour of our schools. So for our second grade parents that are coming out of Gardendale, and these would have been the children that would have gone to Winston, so they never made it to Winston, we are going to be taking them around the district and make sure that they get to see the schools in action, they get to see the principals and the work the principals are doing. Now, do we have to do this? No, but we're doing it, one, because the board has challenged us to do that, but it's also the right thing to do. And you do that because that's, like I said, the right thing to do for our folks. And so I wanted to share that with you guys. And then, of course, we're also going around the school district with our neighborhood associations and making sure that we share information that is important, that is factual more than anything else, and that we're making sure that we share everything from our legislative agenda that is extremely important these days. I'm sure most of you are watching the news as I am, and you're following up on what's happening at the national level. It is really important that we advocate at the legislative level for our neighborhoods and our school district. It's not new to anybody here that funding, public ed funding has been cut. We're not getting any new monies. We're not getting any new monies this biennium. We're not getting any probably the next biennium. So I really want you to think about that. So we are actually standing up a legislative caucus to make sure that Bexar County is well represented. And so again, my work is to get around into the neighborhoods and share the information that's happening here. I know not everybody can come, but it's also on us to try to make sure that we're getting out into the neighborhood and sharing information. You've heard me say many times, getting informed is a two-way street. I don't fully accept that. That is all our responsibility. I think it is also the responsibility of parents. So I would invite parents to keep coming, but if they can't sometimes, we're going to go to them. And I think that's important. In terms of your school board workshop today, so everybody, you should have an agenda for this evening on all the items that are being brought up for discussion this evening. So you will hear about those items, board. As a reminder, this work continues to be rooted in making sure that we are taking care of our over 8,000 students in the school district, that we're honoring all the work that you see up here, everything from our 20 campuses to our partnerships, to the kind of students that we get to serve, and I say that very specifically, that we get to serve, making sure that our innovation zones are still of the highest quality, and that our staff is as informed as they can be. Board, I thank you again for the action you took over the winter holiday in terms of giving our staff their vacation time. We heard a lot of good comments from our staff on that. So thank you again, board, for doing that. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, also making sure that we honor the partnerships that we have, whether it's Holsworth, whether it's getting out in front of T-Board. T-Board's also going to hear a lot of these same presentations. The faith-based community is going to be hearing it, the Women with Vision. All the different groups you see up there are going to be hearing this, a lot of the same information, because there is power in communicating. And as I always say, the best thing you can do is communicate early and communicate often as best you can with individuals. And so again, this is also part of the information and why we ask you to come to these workshops and volunteer your time. I think people forget, or you volunteer all your time when you come to these things, and that is not lost on us. So for this month, as always, on February 1st, the board president and board officer sat to establish the agenda for this meeting. A lot of people don't realize that that's the way that it happens. By statute, the only requirement that we have is that the board president and that the superintendent set the agenda jointly. Our board president elected during her term that we do that more of a collaborative process. So now you have the board vice president and the board secretary that sit in those meetings as well, so that we are training future leaders of tomorrow. So that's extremely important. The other thing that we also provide to every single board member is a one-on-one board meeting with the superintendent if you'd like to take us up on that. These meetings are there so that you can clarify and ask any questions that you may have. Questions are important. It's important that you ask them, that you get clarity on an item that we're asking you to vote for. I do want to be clear, we provide information. We don't necessarily, we are not going to tell you how to vote. We provide the information, you make your choice. That is the way that we do our meetings. And remember, the choices are very clear. You can either vote for, against, or withdraw. Those are the choices that every board member has when they come up to the dais. The other is this evening, the board workshop. And so today, that's your February 6th date. That is what this meeting is about. These meetings generally last about 3. They've gone 4, and in some instances, they've gone 5 hours. It's been a while since that's happened. But they do last about 3 or 4 hours. Typically start at 5, go by 8, maybe 9. But this is the place that we start the conversations, and you can ask all the questions that you have about the items that are going up for a vote. You'll find that many times our items recur following the same cadence every year. We usually have the same items come up each year. And that 12-month calendar is on our website, and board members have access to that calendar as well. Again, those items typically will be the same every year because we follow a timeline that we're given. And then, of course, board members, you also get a board update. And say this because I know there's community that watches this video. Board members, there's your board updates. They're on the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th. We do not have a board update immediately following the regular board meeting. The meetings are linked here. So for anybody that's watching, you can hit that link and you can see all our workshop meetings.
And regular.
Years back, right? So those are there for anybody to pick up on and look at, in terms of the questions that are being brought up and the conversation that's happening here too. And then that's what that looks like in terms of our website, where you can find those videos as well as other information for the board. And then you can also find the presentations that I do with the superintendent. You can find them, they're also linked there. So again, as you're sharing information, let's make sure we're sharing all the information out in the community so that folks can find the information that they need. And then this month, what we're going to start doing is we will be providing our community members a one-pager that will describe what this board volunteers every month in terms of time. As you notice, you'll see some correlation that talks about the board workshop, the one-on-one meetings, performance planning meetings. We have a performance planning meeting next week. We have a board meeting, and then of course this is going to be two-sided. We just didn't want to cover up the whole slide. But this will be at the door starting this month, available for anybody that comes into the community, so they can have that and they know the work that the board is doing each month to get up here every month. Because of course, the work that we do at our regular board meetings is to highlight our people and our staff. That's what's most important. That is not going to change. It is important that we highlight the work that our folks are doing every day in our schools. As always, anybody can sign up for public comment. There's the time by 5 p.m. on the workshop days, because that's the time that we start. And then, of course, board meetings don't start till 6, so it's always important to remember that. But you can sign up now. You can do it online. You used to have to show up, which you can still do. But you can also sign in online. So tonight, board, here's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear a presentation from our leadership team, no different than every other month. Mr. Chavez's team will go first, and these are the individuals that will be presenting tonight. And then you'll hear from Ms. Martinez's team, and these are the individuals that you'll be hearing from tonight as well, in terms of the items that are up for your consideration. Agenda item 5A is the item I'm going to bring forth now because that's an item that falls under my office. I do have another presentation that I'm going to be doing later, so I am going to have to be stepping out a little earlier than usual, but I did want to bring this item up. Board members, for your consideration tonight, and you'll see this in the board book in preparation for the regular board meeting, the board has been asked to present at the Texas Governance Council meeting that is in Galveston. This is now, I believe, the third or fourth year that the board has presented. In fact, the title for this year's presentation is Where Have All the Kids Gone? Edgewood ISD's Rethink Their Redesign Initiative. In other years, we presented on community engagement, safety, the transitioning from state control to local control. These are all really good topics that board members have presented in the last 5 years that we've been together as a team. I will tell you it is also a huge highlight when other trustees come up and acknowledge the board. So I always like to use pictures that every board member, in fact, Mr. Valdez showed this last year when he also was on the board, but every board member gets up and speaks to their colleagues. These are all board members from across the state that come into this. And so again, this is for your consideration, board. For the general community, the board did take an action that moving forward, all trips that involve any board member must be approved by the board in advance. You will see items come up. This is the first month that we're doing it, but our goal is to get out 2 months before anything happens. But that is part of also the board operating procedures, but it will be approved by the board as a whole, whether they do or do not attend. And again, that is brought up by the board. And so that'll be brought up for your consideration as part of, excuse me, let me make sure. As part of the items that go up for a vote. Any questions on this item? Because this is typically one we would ask. Yes, sir.
How many staff members will be attending?
It'll depend on who's, what the item is, and so I am probably going to bring a staff member that has to, that work directly with Rethink Redesign. I know not all board members will be attending. Part of the conversation that I've had with the board, that I've recommended to the board, is that just like we're going to be doing with the rest of the district next year in light of funding concerns, that we start looking at every trip in the district. I do want to be very clear about that. We do have 1882 partnerships in the district that do have a certain right in terms of they want to send their staff on trips. So we will work with those operating schools in terms of what we're trying to do for the district. But we are going to be looking at every trip next year in terms of do we need to attend there and what information is being brought back. Yes, sir.
Will Roy Soto be attending?
Yes, he will. He'll be attending also.
Are we gonna consider taking students this year? I know in the past, last year, a lot of students from other schools were going and tabling outside the trustees to see. Are we gonna consider taking students this year?
Remember, you made that recommendation last year. It'll kind of depend on what the topic is. Every governance session or institute every has a different topic. If I recall, last year it was the students that were much like our team boards that were presenting, or they were actually the student voice was the topic last year. Thank you, ma'am. So I'm not sure what the topic is, but yes, it is something that we should look to for future years.
I think it's student voice again.
Okay, so it's something we can look at, yes, for future years. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Again, that brings my comments to a close. So we are going to transition into our presentations. The first presentation of this evening is going to be Dr. Basuto. He's going to be doing a presentation on the case report. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have the mic?
You made the mic. Thank you.
All right, I'll do the long one. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Hernandez, esteemed board members, community members, and SLT members. Today, what we're going to present is the overview of the TAPER report. It's not a bit. As we're way it's essentially just describing the overall components within the taper. And then we'll read over to some brief general information, okay? Now, the taper report was, was released a little late this year. It was released, I believe, right when we went to Christmas session. And so this is pretty much the information from 22-23 school year, with the public hearing to be held 15 minutes prior to the next board meeting on the 20th, where we will present this information as a public hearing, okay? All right, so let's talk about the components within there. So what you're gonna get is, you got the star performance. The taper report will always give you the team's financials, which on number 2, if you click on it on the PowerPoint, it's already hyperlinked there for you. So if ever you wanna look at them, click it, and it'll take you straight to the financials. It'll also give you the 22-23 accreditation status. The taper will also provide campus performance objectives. 5, report on violent and criminal incidents on campuses, student performance in post-secondary institutions. And by the way, that's hyperlinked as well. So you click on it, it'll take you straight to that site so you can see the report. And then also, last but not least, is the glossary. So again, number 7, you click on it, and it'll take you to the glossary as well. By the way, this presentation was presented to the DEIC. And so the other thing about the taper is that it's compiled by TA every year, and it provides PEDS and student assessment data. So that's where you would get all that information. Now, as you know, there's litigation going on this year, and that's why there was a delay in the taper being put forth. Usually we get it in October. This year, it wasn't released till December 2020, I believe. And within that release, we did get the data, but there is no accreditation. So it doesn't give you like an A, B, or C. It's not giving you anything. It's not even giving you any accreditation statuses at all. It just gives you the information. Now, the taper is published in 2 different forms. One, you can access it online, and that is the first bullet. You'll see where it says Texas Performance Reporting System, TPRS. You click on that, it'll take you straight to that website. And of course, there's the PDF version, which I've hyperlinked there as well, where it says PDF taper. Click on it, and it'll take you straight to it. Okay, within the taper, you'll find information relative to overall campus ratings. As I said, this year, there's no ratings issued, so it's been withheld. Generally, you would receive distinction designations based on comparing with like campuses, and that's been withheld as well. Also, you will get special education determination statuses. That's been withheld as well. And then, last but not least, is the ASVAB, or the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test. That information is there. So note that of the 4, the 3 at the top, those are withheld. And so here is the overall taper. It's district name, our number, and you'll notice under the accountability rating, no rating, and under special education, no rating as well. Okay, so let's talk about section 1. Under section 1, as we all know, star performance, and it's giving you a 2-year window of information. So you're able to see performance over a 2-year window. The way it's broken down, it's by approaches, meets, and masters. And so they'll give you proficiencies based on those 3 levels over 2 years, excuse me, for each assessment, and for all grades and all subjects put together. And then it also breaks it down by all grades by subject. So it gives it to you in 2 different ways. You're able to look at it holistically. And you also receive information on STAR progress for 22 and 23. And that's calculating growth, and it's calculated in reading, grades 4 through 8, and English 2, and in mathematics, grades 4 through 8, and algebra 1. The reason why you don't see 3rd grade is because it has to have 2 years of testing so you can measure growth. That's why you'll never see 3rd grade, because that's the first year that they take the test, okay? And this is reported by grade and subject. Other components found within the taper is the bilingual education information. You'll see groups, programs, you'll see star performance, 2-year windows for our ELL students, and then also growth. Within the taper, when you look at it, you'll also get star participation in those various assessments. So you'll know how many kids are actually showing up to assess. So now let's talk about attendance, graduation, and dropout rates. Now here's where it gets a little tricky, and as a reminder, this indicator, the ones that I just described, happened last year. Those are current, they just happened. These, the attendance, graduation, and dropouts, and CCMR, which I'll speak to in a second, those are what I call a lagging indicator, and they're always a year behind. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind when we're looking at attendance, graduation, and dropout rates, it's always 1 year behind. So that information is also in the table. You also have the graduation profile. Again, it's a year behind. You'll notice it is based off the 21-22 school year. So now let's look at the attendance and dropout. Okay, so let's walk through it so it's clear to everybody. So when you're looking at the bottom where it says taper year, that's the year that it was released, you'll notice under 2021 and 2022, that year, for the attendance was 93.1, but notice underneath what year it was reported out. 2020-21. See, that's a lagging indicator. For this year, the attendance rate that's being reported for the 22-23 taper is based off of 21-22 school year data. Okay, the same thing for annual dropout and for annual dropout 9 through 12. So you get the dropout rates for 7th and 8th grade and then 9 through 12. You'll notice the drop at 93.1 to 45.6. We are now just seeing the residual effects of COVID. You're asking me, what does that mean, Dr. Russell? What that means is when you see the data at 93.1, that was the final year where TEA was giving credit to students for logging online, and they were considered present. The 85.6, which is 21-22, which for some of us may seem like a long time ago, that was the first year that kids came back face-to-face. And as you all know, we struggled getting kids to come back. But it's almost like they were away for almost a year and a half, and then we had to bring them all back face-to-face, and that is the residual effect of COVID. So you may think, well, that just happened, it seems like a long time ago. Well, yes, it seems like it, but it's because it's a year behind. And that's what you're seeing there with those numbers and dropouts and getting kids to come back, and so that's been the challenge. So now we have to work towards increasing those numbers moving forward. But those are what I call the residual impacts of COVID. And you're just now seeing them on the taper. Graduation rates, same parameters that I just described. When you look at it, remember it's always a year lagging. So when you look at the 22-23 graduation rate, that's the class of 2022. And so we were struggling kids to come back. Obviously, we struggled for some of the kids to come and graduate. And those are just the residual impacts of COVID. And so now we're having to work our way back to start increasing those metrics and those numbers so we get more kids to come back, attend school consistently, so that we may graduate them on time. Notice here as well, this is what we call the College Career and Military Readiness. Many of us call it CCMR. And this is one of the indicators that we measure. And it is the year behind, lagging. And it has those various indicators that we use to measure. Now, that's in there, as you'll know, and it's based off of the 21-22 school year. So for example, the graduates that just graduated out the door this May, we don't get credit for their CCMR until this time next year at next year's taper. So the taper information that you see is based off of the class of 2022. Okay, so it's always a year lagging. Sorry for that. This is another indicator based off of the 21-22 school year. It's a lagging indicator. It is what you call the post-secondary indicators. So when you go into the taper report, you're going to notice advanced dual credit, CTE coherent sequence, and graduation rates. Now, we will speak to the CTE coherent sequence. We've been pushing that really hard, and you will, next year's taper report is going to really reflect that, where over 45% of our kids graduated with a CT certification. And so we're really proud of that. So that's one of those numbers that we're looking at. It's going to take time to build because the students have to attend the pathway, then take the test, and then you see the results. And so we've been really working hard on that. The dual credit, we did take a hit, to be transparent. And looking at the information, it's those kids that were in the middle of COVID. And so the way you take dual credit, you have to be in school so that you can take the TSI assessment, so that therefore you can qualify to take the dual credit. Well, these kiddos that graduated were at home. And so they couldn't take the TSI test, and by the time they came back, we were just trying to graduate. And so unless we get kids in early, 9th grade, 10th grade, and start TSI testing and get them into dual credit courses, and then you'll start noticing that trend going up back into dual credit. The numbers will increase. So that is something that we looked at, and we're pushing that with our current freshmen and sophomores to get more kids TSI tested and ready so that they can take dual credit. And unfortunately, when we look at these numbers, they were right down in the middle of COVID, and they were not present. They were doing from online testing from home, or doing online learning. We couldn't TSI test them. Therefore, we couldn't get them into dual credit courses. So that always has a cascading effect. So now we're working towards rectifying that, and here in the next coming years, as the new cohorts start coming up, we should start seeing more dual credit now start coming back and getting out of the COVID residual impact. Okay, student information. Now the student information is last year's information. So the information I just covered, graduation rates, dual credit, all those things are lagging a year. This information is strictly from last year. So I'm going to show you both student and staff, and this is from last year. So according to the taper, I'll just highlight, I'm not going to read it all to you, but we had 8,165 students with the demographics broken down. What I want to point out is look at the average years of experience overall in the district at 8. We have a lot of young teachers. 51.9% of teachers in our district, and we had this talk at DEIC, that we need our veteran teachers, because we have a lot of new teachers in the district. 1 in 2 teachers have 5 or less years of experience. So we've been doing a lot of training to help our teachers accelerate their learning so they become more effective. We just have a lot of new teachers with very little experience. And so we've done a lot of training. I know Dr. Stelza much appreciated with her shop and our coordinators and offering monthly trainings, because we know, and we're training our instructional coaches, that we have a need, because 51% of our teachers are with 5 years or less of experience. Peace Financials, that's through Ms. Myrna Martinez's shop. You would click on that, and it will take you straight to the Peace Financials. Within the financials, you'll see revenues, expenditures, disbursements, tax rates, fund balance. And then you can also see it from the campus side. Okay, so section 3 is the accreditation status. As you can see, we are superior achievement under 2022 first rating. It's a superior achievement, accountability, and then we are accredited. And of course, under section 4, that's where you see the campus improvement plans, which were presented earlier to you in the fall. All that is found there in that section. And then section 5 is a report on violent and criminal incidents. And so this has to be reported. And what you'll see here is the discipline codes and PEIMS, starting with 11 all the way to 57. And the way you read it is 11 at the top, and it runs across, and at the bottom, it'll give you the number of reports relative to each of those. So you notice 119 for 36. Well, that's the felony controlled substance violation. Mr. Williams, what would that be? Pop quiz. The vape pens. And it's a felony when kids are reported with vape pens, and that was considered a felony. That's why you see that high number. Under violent criminal incidents, prevention and intervention policies, at the left is the discipline intervention prevention, and then on the right is the interventions. We got bullying prevention, we got violence and crisis intervention, our counselors and social workers are working, we got SEL counselors, we got teen dating violence prevention month. We have suicidal ideation protocols, child abuse and neglect training that has to happen yearly. And so those are all those interventions that happen people working behind the scenes assisting our students. Section 6 is the post-secondary institution that I mentioned earlier. And so that's where our class of 2022 graduates attend higher ed. You click on that hyperlink in blue and it will take you to that report. And it will look like this, and it will break it down by each of the high schools. Memorial, John F. Kennedy, STEAM, and then Learn for Life, of course, and then where students attend. Now, this only tracks in-state. In-state, out-of-state is not reflected here. It's only in-state. Again, the glossary, section 7, you would click on that and it will give you all the explanations around all the idioms that we have and all the different vocabulary terms. If you ever have questions, you would click on this glossary and it describes to you each of the terms and what they mean. So this is resource and availability. It has to be given yearly. So the district's paper will be posted after we do the February 20th public hearing. And then it'll be posted in our website within 2 weeks of that meeting. Paper copies will be made available. And if any questions, please feel free to contact me. And if I don't know the answer, I will definitely try to research and get it to you. So that's the taper. I do want to lift some information. And information that we should be proud of as far as academic achievement. So we're going to give you a quick few highlights about the taper analysis. Before we do, I'm going to mention some terms. We talked about approaches, needs, and masters. We talked about that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what each of those things are. And then I'm going to mention retesters. In the world of high school, there's a thing called retesters. In high school, when they take the high school exams, and kids fail the end of course exam, which is the STAR assessment for high school, they're considered retesters and they have to retake the test. And so there's a little thing called retesters in high school, and it's very critical and important because if you don't take care of it, eventually your numbers become very astronomical as far as retesters. So I'm going to show some information. I don't know if you do this, but when you look at the taper report and you do a 2-year comparison, and you put all grades and all subjects together, we had a 5-point gains in approaches. More kids have passed our state assessment overall as a district. 5 points is a significant number, especially when you consider all the tests, 3rd through high school. You put them all together, all contents, everything together, 5-point gains. You look at language arts, it's broken down, 3-point gains. And we know we have work there, and I know we talked about this, board members, that we've been focusing very, very strongly on writing. We talked about that the reading assessment now is half writing and half reading. No longer is it just you read the story and answer questions, now it's half writing. And so we've been pushing that really hard this year because we really want to move that needle. Mathematics, we are super proud. We are moving the needle in the right direction. 7-point gains overall. That is not something that's easy to do when you're talking about a big organization with that many exams. That means we're doing something right. So we want to keep pushing that trajectory. Keep in mind, half our teachers are 5 years or less. And we're still doing that good. So keep that in mind as you're looking at numbers. We're not only making gains, but we're making gains with young teachers or inexperienced teachers. So we want to keep growing our teachers. Doing phenomenal work. The other thing is our science scores, 6-point gains. And our social studies, look at that, 14. Huge number. That's not an easy number to accomplish overnight in 1 year. Now, let's celebrate one more win. We had the end of course exams and our retester data in December. This is information for retesters. These are the kids that didn't pass in the spring and they become retesters and they're given a chance to take the test again in December. And so we're always striving to decrease the number of retesters. So let's look at our Algebra 1. You'll notice in December of 2022, the state don't pay so much attention to the approaches, needs, and masters versus the retesters. Remember, these students are at-risk students, and so the goal here, you're not trying to get 80%. The goal is decrease the number of kids. That's the goal. You want to decrease retester. That way they pass and they're able to move on. That's the goal. So when you're looking at this data, you notice statewide last year they had 63,000 retesters. The region had 6,500. Then this year, they did pretty well on approaches, right? for retesters, remember it's only retesters. And they dropped their number from 63,000 to 47,000. The region dropped the number from 6,500 to 4,600. Really good progress. Well, let us show you our results. Last year, we were at 20% and 1% zero. We had 345 retesters. I mean, those kids had taken the Algebra 1 test in the past, and still had not passed it. 345. This year, more than half of our students passed the Algebra 1 test. Remember, these are at-risk students. More than half our kids passed it, and we dropped that number from 345 to 98. That is an astronomical number. Not just a good number, it's astronomical. I cannot stress that enough. Huge number. Huge gains in Algebra 1. We outpaced the state and the region in approaches. We significantly reduced the number of retesters in Algebra 1. We should expect good Algebra 1 scores this spring, because as you decrease your retesters, that's going to bring up your overall scores, and we're coming. And we feel like those Algebra 1 scores are going to show in spring, because this is a good start right here. Huge shout out to our Algebra 1 teachers. If you see an Algebra 1 teacher at the high schools, give them a pat on the back and give them a good hug and say, great job. And also, Sheila Costa, who's our coordinator, working with our instructional coach, did a phenomenal job. She was literally teaching some of our retesting classes. And she would go out there and teach the classes herself, because we had a sub. And she was not going to let us fail. So I want to lift that. Phenomenal work there. Okay, I'm going to pick up the pace now. Let's look at biology. Same thing. Look at the retesters. Look at the approaches to the state and the region. And look at the number of kids that dropped. Look at ours. And we went from 151 to 46. Noticing the trend? We're moving the needle. Strong gains overall. Approaches increased from 27 to 54. And then the pass rates. But the really thing I'm most proud of is reducing the number of students needing remediation. We went from 151 to 46. Ms. Alicia Brock is our coordinator. You see there, great job, because she's been working with our biology teachers, and so we want to give them a shout out as well for such an outstanding job. Okay? U.S. history, same thing. Look at the retesters. State region to this year. Look at the district. We had 42. Now we're down to 6. Only 6 kids in the entire district have not passed this assessment. That's phenomenal. Very strong pass rates. We had 85% of our kiddos pass it. And so we're on our way. So we should expect social studies to U.S. history to maintain in the 90s and above. English, 238. We still got work to do. 223. Nonetheless, we're still bringing down our numbers. And English 2, 158 to 147. But I will tell you that we're able to pinpoint into one school where we're going to have to help support JFK. And it's not a black out back school where we're saying that we know where we got to provide the extra support. Because when you look at your English 2 results, Fine Arts is doing a great job. They dropped it from 10. And we have our Memorial High School dropped 64 to 47. So they're moving in the right direction. And so hopefully I gave you all some positive trends. And so this is no longer an accident. Now this is becoming a habit. Where we're showing growth gains across the board. Okay? Any questions? Sorry if I took too long, but I just get passionate. I want to make sure everybody understands the work that goes in. Yes?
I know it's all political out there, but if we have any indication of what they're going to give us some actual agreements.
Question is, do we know when the ratings are going to come out? I do not. I have not received any word, or I don't know if Chavez or Dr. Lemon have heard anything. My guess is they're going to just punt it and wait for the next assessments, because we're already going to test here in the next 2 to 3 months, so it's already around the corner, but I don't have that answer.
I think
think also consider that the lawsuit's open right now. And then there's an impending, this would be the fifth or sixth special legislative session? Fifth, so that's also only.
After the voucher.
Yes, that's the voucher.
Mr. Lopez,
What is the reason why the special education didn't
because of the mitigation, that you just described, yeah, there's no ratings going out right now.
And then if you can provide a number later, like what was the attendance prior to COVID, like in graduation rate prior to COVID?
So when you say prior, can you be more specific, what school year?
Like a year or two before COVID?
Before COVID, okay. Yeah, and that would probably be our next goal, to get back to those numbers.
What does mobility mean for student participation?
Where does it say that?
The profile, it says mobility of 23. That's what
Oh, the mobility of student information. That's the percentage of students that come and go from the district. They're considered mobile. So 24% of our students will leave and come back, leave and come back. That's considered the mobility rate. They're moving around. They don't just stay put at that one school. So 1 in 4 kids is moving around and withdrawing. And so that's a challenge too. High mobility can be very challenging. You can't get young kids to get them accustomed to a safe space, to a school environment, so you can really make some gains.
That also connects to our leavers. Our leaver situation is students leaving the district and those students coming in. So it's related to a previous leaver.
Okay? Yes.
I have a question. On the district profile for 22-23, you gave us the total number of students, you gave us 94.2% economically disadvantaged. Let me ask you, if you have 79.3% at risk, is that having to do separate from economically, or what is that?
Yes, the at risk, and also, so the economic disadvantage is you qualify because income, right? So those are the individuals that would sign the lunch application and qualify for free or reduced under COVID economic disadvantage. The at risk is students who have either failed the course, failed the test, or are not showing up present. There's a list of indicators that would mark them as at risk. So that's a little different. Okay, so in other words, it could be in high school, he failed 2 classes and is behind his cohort because he didn't pass his 2 classes. So now he's treated as an at-risk. Or a 3rd grader who was retained. Or a 4th grader who failed all his start exams.
So-
There's different indicators.
So at risk is of failing, not dropping out. Dropping
It
out.
could be. You could be at risk of dropping out.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Well, that's a good question. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Salinas?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. I'm going to be providing for you all an update on our fine arts program. Our intended learning outcomes for today, I'm going to activate a little bit of prior knowledge, take you back to November. Also going to share some school choice survey results that we were able to gather on fine arts programming. We'll review some of the impact data, the impact of some of the survey results, and then we'll engage with customers. So this slide looks really familiar to you. Innovate, this is the innovation zones. We talked about having a commitment to school choice and opportunity. We talked about a roadmap, wanting to ensure that all students sit in an A or B rated schools. We talked about an opportunity that this challenge could present us with if we looked at how we could optimize programming. And then we also talked about some of the things that we've been doing around our facilities and different ways that we've been engaged in cost savings over the last couple of years. So on November 12th, there were some recommendations made, and we came and shared with you that we were going to explore the addition of grades 6 through 12, 6 through 8 to the Fine Arts Academy. We're going to see what kind of interest we had. We also said that we would explore offering middle school students a choice for enrollment at Gus Garcia Brentwood Fine Arts Academy, 6 through 12 Las Palmas, and Cisenos Leadership School for Boys. So school choice in Edgewood ISD, back in November, we started having discussions around what school choice would look like in the coming year. We started looking at alignment of courses, CTE pathways, how we would optimize those programs. And we also put some information on the school selection card for students. And it sounded something like, you know, if we were able to open a 6th to 8th grade fine arts program at the Fine Arts Academy, would you be interested in going? And if so, what kind of courses would you be interested in taking? So that got sent out to all of the 5th graders, 7th graders, and, 6th and 7th graders for next year's 6th to 8th grade cohorts. And so we sent that information out, and we also asked students if we are unable to offer a 6th to 8th grade fine arts program at the Fine Arts Academy, what's your second choice? And so here's the information that we gathered. We had 64 6th graders that, you know, indicated they would be interested in attending the Fine Arts Academy to take some fine arts classes. We had 42 7th graders and 53 8th graders. So what did we do with that information? Well, we got together and we started looking over the survey results, started looking at what courses kids were interested, started looking at teacher certification, started looking at who in the district could provide services. And we determined at the committee that in order for us to really explore what a program would look like, we would need at least 60 kids. So you'll recall from the previous slide, that meant we began exploring, can we make this happen for these 64 6th grade students? And so we started looking at the selections. You can see there what they chose. Now this isn't in any rank order for any one particular kid. This is just, if I was one of those 6th graders, you know, out of those 64, 54 said, hey, I would love to take an art class. So you can see there their top choices, and you can see which choices had a little lower level of interest. The other thing we did is we went and we did like a cost analysis. What would it take to serve these students? What would it cost, you know, what would be the associated cost for the teaching units? And we realized, man, this is for 64 students, and I'll show you the data here in a little bit. It's a high cost for a small number of enrolled students. The other thing we evaluated, right, aside from all of this, is we started thinking about what do we know? What are the things that as we're planning through this, what are those known variables, and what are some of the unknown variables? And then what would be the impact to existing schools, right? The district, you know, brought the Rethink, Redesign Committee together. There's been a lot of conversation, the board's taken some action, so we really had to think very carefully about what this impact would mean on the entire district. So here's the cost analysis. This is based on 64 students. We did this cost analysis based on an average of $75,000. You know, we said this is the average pay for a teacher with benefits, and so we started there. So as you can see, that we even explored 2 different options. And again, we did this based on existing staff that we had from WISE or REN, or staff that we saw at another campus, you know, could be utilized to help support this program. So with option 2, that's a tight schedule for any teacher. So an English teacher in 6th grade would have to teach, you know, English, and then the honors English And there are two different curriculums. So it would be two different lesson plan prep study. If we did a 2x2, that means one teacher teaching maybe English and social studies, another teacher maybe teaching science and math, that would be a total of 4 preps. And so we ended up doing a sustainability cost based on option 1 because we felt that was the best option and the most reasonable option for a teacher to service students. And so you can see there, and this is with 3 fine arts teachers that would serve in those different areas that we talked about. And so you can see there in year 1, that would be about $451,500. If we continue to add grade levels, we would need to consider expanding. So the 3 teachers in option 1 is because we currently have a teacher who happens to have a fine arts certification, a special ed certification, and they also have a certification in social studies. So we thought we could, expand the sections. This cost also with the teachers that are there included in this cost, they don't have a full schedule. So there would still be 3 or 4 periods that we would need to utilize their services in a different way. And that's because there's only 64 kids. You can see the cost in year 2. And you can see the cost going up in year 3. This is at the lowest level. These would be like, the least amount. This doesn't include supplies, materials, or anything of that nature. It doesn't include maybe, depending on the type of student that comes that needs to be served in dyslexia or some other service that they need, this cost could continue to go up. So what is the final recommendation that we are here to share with you? With regard to building the 6th to 8th grade program at the Fine Arts Academy, we are recommending that that be delayed so that we can continue to investigate what we can continue to do to offer programming. Again, why did we make this recommendation? Low level of interest. It's not financially viable or sustainable at this particular time. Actual enrollment. We have 64 kids that have said, I want to go to the Fine Arts Academy, but we don't know if they'll actually show up. And so that's why we put at this point, if it goes down below 64, this is not sustainable or viable. The other thing we looked at was the opportunity to enhance current programming, to really look at where fine arts can be infused in some of our existing schools. Some of the next steps, so what are we going to do now that we've made this recommendation? We're going to generate a letter, we're going to communicate with families and students. We'll send students notification, congratulations, you've been accepted into the second choice campus that they had asked to be placed at. And then we'll inform receiving campuses of the additional students that did not, are not currently in their counts for next year. In conclusion, again, just due to low enrollment, we will not be moving forward with the 6th to 8th grade fine arts program at the Fine Arts Academy, that we are currently exploring current teaching positions to see how they can be allocated to optimize programming. And then again, this is not a rethink, redesign task force committee recommendation, and no board action is required, but we did want you to know the why behind this decision and share some information with you here today. And now.
May I have a-
Oh, of course.
So, board and community, a couple of things that I want to share. So, first things first, yes, this is not an item that requires board action, but more importantly than it not requiring board action, it's our responsibility to share with you because you requested that we do evaluation on our next moves in this program, and we do it in a very public and transparent way. So again, coincidentally, that we have the recommendation that came up earlier today at the beginning of the meeting. The idea for us is to continue to share the why behind all these things. Of course, it is my practice not to just get out in front to say things without thinking them through. So I want to be really clear about that. I'm more interested that we be that we think very clearly about what we're going to share with the community and with staff. So I'll start with that. The other thing that I want to elaborate a little more on that we also have to consider, and this is not new, because this has been a conversation now for a couple of years. Other challenges that we face are teacher pipeline. While our HR department does a really good job of building our pipelines for teachers, you've heard about our critical teacher program for UTSA, these are different programs, A&M San Antonio, the critical teachers that we have. That's now existed for 2 to 3 years, and they are producing a good number of teachers for us. It still doesn't defray from the reality that we have teachers that are leaving the profession in general. And so, believe it or not, they watch everything that goes on. And so, I say this to you because that is also some other factors that we consider. The other thing that I want to consider is we also have a responsibility and a commitment to the teachers that we're already moving from red and from white. So we want to make sure that we get them moved as efficiently and as high quality as we can as well. So again, those are other things that we need to consider. And then things that we may forget, we also have summer construction projects. Mr. Williams is usually under the gun in the summer to make sure that his team, Jonathan, John, Mr. Cantu, that they get our schools cleaned up, projects are going through. And guys, remember, there were years where we had school up until the middle of June, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, and then we started right back at the end of July. That does not give our guys 4 to 6 weeks to get things done. And so those are other considerations. I appreciate the cost analysis that was shared. We wanted to be real clear about that. But beyond that, also consider the fact that we're having a hard time finding teachers in general. And so those are other things. So again, this recommendation and notice to the community is, it's not a no, it's not yet. We'll keep looking at it. But these are the numerous factors that we took into consideration to bring this forward to share with the community. So I'll give it back to you, Terry, in case there's any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. Are there any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
So you said your criteria was 60 students, and then you have interest of 64 students, but you're saying that is not right.
So we started with the 60 to see how viable it was. So we said, hey, let's explore it, right? Ideally, you would want 80 to 120, right? We were nowhere near that mark. So, we said, let's see what this might look like. Let's cost it out. And so we began to build what a master schedule would look like. We began to explore what cost savings are, as opposed to just saying, nope, it's too low of an interest. And so that's why I was saying we started. We said, hey, let's plan with 60. Let's see if we can make this work. We worked out the numbers. We did the master schedule. At this point, the recommendation is it's not something that we want to move forward with at this point in time.
For context, I want to put that some context because we didn't put that up there, but if you take the 451.5 and those 64 students, the cost just to get the teachers, the very basic need, not textbooks, not anything else, that's $7,054.69 per student. And just for reference, the state funds $6,160 per student. So just right off the bat, just to open the doors with teachers, that's already $895 that we have to take from other programs just for the teaching positions. And then hard to fill jobs as well. So.
And construction in the building too. We also do not want to break from the students that are at Fine Arts Academy now. So that would cost construction costs as well. There is an item on the board agenda tonight. This has been a consideration in terms of still enhancing the Fine Arts Academy. So that's important. We still keep the program that we have. But thank you for putting that in the context. We're $800 already in the water.
Thank you. Additionally, as we started to construct the master schedule, with 60 students, that means each teacher would teach only 3 classes. Well, there was another 4 that we needed to think about in terms of what else they were able to do. Yes, sir.
Thank you. But we also did have money to buy a $5 million warehouse, so I don't think the cost would be the real reason. But another thing is, like, if you continue to wait, you're going to lose the interest, and that's 64, so you keep going down. So that's really what's going to happen. And of course, you're adding interest because you're prioritizing the 1882 schools because you added 6 to 8.
Because you added 6 to 8 in the Las Palmas School for Girls and Boys, so you're adding interest there. But just to clarify, Dr. Hernandez, we will have no 6 to 8 grade levels that are Edgewood ISD, not operating partners schools. We will have no 6 to 8 students for just Edgewood ISD, not operating schools.
So I want to clarify some of your statement, because I want to speak with facts and actual knowledge. We do have 6 to 8 students, because all students, whether they're operating partners or not, are EISD students. We've now once looked at them as not our students. They're all 8,100 kids are our students, so let's start with that. The second thing, let's talk with numbers. Let's not talk with ambiguous information. We are not going to not continue to fund our fine arts program. We are not also prioritizing operating partner schools as well. That would not be a true statement, and I'm not going to just let that sit there. That is not a true statement. The schools, all schools are important. And so I want to remind you of that. Now, in terms of the $5 million, let's also put that into context too. $5 million, and that's not an accurate number. The amount of money that was used on the warehouse affects all 20 campuses. Let's remind everyone, we needed a warehouse because our operational areas were our refrigeration, let's just be specific. Our refrigeration systems are at the end of their life. In fact, they've probably been over their life. And so we made that investment, which was a one-time investment using ESSER funds, which are one-time funds as well. That was explained to the board a couple of years ago, and we've had multiple conversations about it. That we would make the investment so that we could bring in all our food, perishable items, things like that. The second thing we also did with the warehouse is that we needed one place where all items could be received. Technology, help me out, folks. Technology,
textbooks, any kind of consumables that relates to instructional materials. All those items would be one-stop shopping. We'll be using it as a receiving and shipping location. So that means anything that is, for the most part, when I say anything, majority of products and resources that come into the district will be housed, will come there first to be received, tagged, inventory, and then shipped out to the department or the campus. Again, not every little thing, but the majority of it. I'm not speaking absolutes. There may be something that comes to this building, but the majority of everything should come to that location.
correct. And then the other thing, I think the final thing that we wanted to make sure of is that when we receive product, that we also have eyes on that product. When items leave our district without us knowing, we lose money on that. So again, my intent with sharing that information is I want to be very factual about information that's being put out, because I want to be responsible for what I say, because it's pre-recorded and I want folks to get actual information. So I'll defer back to you.
Thank you. But then again, we've been losing kids and we're gonna lose kids, and our demographic here said that we're gonna have 6,000 students by the end of 2030. So the cost for that warehouse is, the students are dropping, but the facility's still gonna be there. And we did close two schools, so you also have 2 additional properties. But my question to you, Dr. Hernandez, is for 6 to 8, because all the other schools are going to be operating partners, and Wren Middle School is not an operating partner, so there are not going to be any regular schools that just Edgewood ISD does all the curriculum and all, like, that doesn't have their own contract for an operating school, so we're not going to have any schools like that next year, correct?
I'll defer to our innovation officer, because
I'm asking you, the superintendent.
I understand, but I'm going to defer to the subject matter specialist.
Thank you. I do want to clarify that we are very fortunate to have 1882 partnerships that are extremely collaborative. The models that the 1882 partners have brought in were models aligned to the vision that we had for students here in Edgewood ISD. In terms of curriculum, are there certain autonomies by contract? Absolutely. They do have the autonomy to choose their own curriculum, right? And to a certain extent, if they're offering a program that's not offered somewhere else, guess what? We want them to. Because regardless of whether or not the curriculum is different from the district curriculum, it is still and must be aligned with state policy. They still have to meet state requirements. It's still going to be a high quality instructional material. And students select schools based on that different experience. And so what we have found is that our 1882 partners do, for the most part, come to all of our training and professional development, there's not one principal that doesn't take the opportunity to come sit with our other principals during trainings, our assistant principals. They attend all of our state required trainings. Our teachers work in collaboration during professional development. And so all of our campuses currently right now, with the exception of Martindale Early Learning Program, which is a specialized curriculum in pre-K, uses a different curriculum resource. The rest of our operating partners do opt into our services. They get coaching support and all those other things. And to Dr. Hernandez's, the point he made earlier, they are our students. They are our teachers. And so we want to ensure that everyone understands that 1882 partnerships are here to provide the service that we ask them to provide.
My question was not answered.
And then these operating partners do not attend the safety committee meetings, which they are invited to, their board is invited to. But my question is to you, that there will not be any 6th through 8th grade schools that are not operating partners in our school district, like we had in the past, which was Red Middle School, that was not an operating partner. That's my question to you, Dr. Hernandez.
So I respectfully disagree with you. Those are our students, those are our schools. Those entities report to the 7-member board that is in the contract. There are certain decisions that they make specifically around human resources, academics, and finance. But ultimately that board reports to the city board up here. So I would disagree with that statement, which is in the spirit of being democratic, because they are our schools. When I look at my kids at this school, those are our HISD kids. We have principals and we've grown in the district. There are multiple factors that I won't continue with. These are our schools, we have branded as our schools. And so I would ask us to consider factual information.
I know, but the question was that there's no 6 to 8 school in Edgewood IC that is not an operating partner. So yes or no?
It's not that simple. I don't work in, I'm not binary in my thinking, sir. We can move on.
Do you have any additional questions about the fine arts program? Yes, sir.
Currently, the Stafford Fine Arts School is not up to 5th grade, correct?
Correct.
So as that evolves, we may eventually see that the 6th to 8th at the Fine Arts Academy occur, that numbers increase, correct?
Correct. They are scheduled to matriculate all the way up to grade 5 in 2026, 27.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gavin.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, the president, community members, colleagues, today I want to go and present to you the leadership piece. Their clicker somewhere.
Carrie.
That's all right. So this is our study session 4B for today. These individuals will be presenting. Dr. Basuka is already presented. The table report, Dr. Matthew will report later on in this session. Students will also present later on. And while Dr. Basuka presented the paper, there are also a couple more items that will cover in this session. Currently, our PIG board vision, our outcome and our vision remain the same. Today, I'm going to give you a presentation on the Lone Star Governance monthly monitoring report. As you know, I come every month, and report out on the Lone Star Governance component. This is our study session 4C, and this is the report for February. Our priority is focused on students, and the goal today is goal 1, grade 3 reading. As you can see, I have a copy of the Lone Star Governance monitoring calendar for 23-24, and that includes all of our workshop dates and board meeting dates. And just to remind everybody, this is year 7. that we're providing this data. On the right-hand side, we also have our student outcome goals, what goal progress measures, constraint progress measures, our board quarterly progress measures, our progress tracker that we will cover, and for today, February 6th, and also including the board meeting on February the 20th, where the board will approve this particular presentation. We have goal progress measures 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. These correlate to grade 1, grade 2, grade K, kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, leading up to our grade 3 reading, which is our Lone Star governance goal. As you can see, we have various readings of different books. I know in the last couple of months, we've had the opportunity to go to campuses to read to students. I recommend anybody in the audience, maybe volunteer for that. It's a wonderful experience, and you'll be glad that you did. So let's go to goal progress measure GPM 1.1. This states the percentage of students in kindergarten who score on or above level on a reading diagnostic assessment will increase from 36% to 52% by June 2027, baseline end of year reading measure June 2022. I have gone over this painstakingly every month, just to point out on this particular piece, we have with us our baseline here, which is 36%, and then we increase to 52% by 2027. Here's 2027, there's 52. Each of the black bars represent a yearly target. That's our target for 23, target for 24, target for 25, 26, and 27. As I stated, we have our baseline of 30%, which was taken at the end of the year 2022, that serves as our baseline. For 2023, our end of the year was 52%. Our 2023 goal for kindergarten was at 39%. I want to say that the increases that you saw in the data report that Dr. Basuka shared with you, and also within the course, we can see that this is the area where it starts to happen. This is when children begin to read. The other piece is that for this year, the 2024 beginning of the year, I reported out to this group that we were at 43%. Now, I wanted to point out that this year's goal is 42%, right? So we passed that by 1 percentage point. That was at the beginning of the year. The middle of the year, we're at 52%. So obviously, we passed that particular goal of 42% and actually met our 5-year goal. So we're very happy to report that out. And of course, the data source that we have is MClass Amplify. It's a reading diagnostic data. It's the middle of the year that was taken in January 2024. The next slide represents our GPM 1.2. This is the percentage of students in grade 1 who score on or above grade level on reading diagnostic assessment will increase from 35%, right, our baseline, to 61% in 2027, our baseline class, our summer of 2022. As you can see, our baseline here at 35%. In 2023, we reached up to 44%. Our 23 baseline, our goal was 40%. We passed that by 4 percentage points. This year, at the beginning of the year, I reported out to you a 34% for the beginning of the year for our grade 1 students. Now, at the middle of the year, we've increased that by 4 percentage points up to 38%, keeping in mind that our goal for this year is 45 percentage points, with the final point being at 61%. And again, this is MClass data that we use this data. The next is GPM 1.3, which is students in grade 2, right? And we want to increase from our baseline of 29% to 55% by June 2027. There's our baseline. Our last year, end of the year, was 2023, was 43%. Our 23 goal was 34%. So significantly past that number. At the beginning of this year, our 2024 beginning of the year was set at 35%. Our goal for this year is 39%. Our middle of the year, just back in January, they shot up to 42%. So they've surpassed our goal by 3 percentage points. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is where students begin to read in kindergarten, in first grade, and second grade. We want to ensure that our students are up to par, and we're going to continue with this training for our students to learn to read. Teaching how to read is a science, ladies and gentlemen. That is a very difficult science that until you're actually with your elbows up to teaching students, it's a very challenging task. So I'd like to now look at, this is the final overarching component. If we look at, we look at kinder, first grade, and second grade for 23-24 reading. Our LSG goals for the end of this year are 42, 45, and 39. At the beginning of the year, we were at 43, 34, and 35. And now at the middle of the year, we're at 52, 38, and 42. Again, I'll come back to this group in May, June, and we'll report out what our K1 and 2 end of the year scores are. And by that time, we should have our, remember our goal is third grade reading, right? At the STAR tested grade level. So we'll come back to you with that data. If you look here, and I apologize for that, I'll be sure to make these a little bit larger next time. But these include our data by program, and it also includes by grade and ethnicity. As you can see, there's kinder, first grade, second grade, we have 75% of emergent bilinguals scoring at a very high rate. We saw that before. Our economically disadvantaged is 47%, our special ed is at 33%, and our high focus group, that high focus group includes high migration, homeless, migrant, things of that nature. And we can see how they fare for each grade level. You can see that there's a pattern that emerges here, again, focusing on the special ed students to ensure that they come up to par for that. On the other side of this particular slide, we have race and ethnicity. And you can see that we have all students, Hispanic, African American, white, Asian, and we can see that those two bars at the very beginning for kindergarten are pretty much at parity. We have a white group of 29% and an Asian 50%. In grade 1, we have 36, 37, did not have that particular population at that point. And then grade 2, we come back up, and now we have a larger number of percentages of those particular groups. So as requested, we want to provide you with this data, because once we get to the STAR test of grade level, grade 3 and up, all those subpopulations can come into play and serve very important roles. Ladies and gentlemen, this gives you a breakdown by campus. Look at the very top. We have the LSG goals for K, first and second for the end of the year. This is our middle of the year numbers that we have. And then this is all of our campuses for kindergarten, for first grade, and for second grade. You can see if this is the average for Edgewood, you can see where they lie relative to that number for each campus. I do want to state that Gardendale Early Learning Program, we only have first grade. That's because that's a compliance challenge, and so they have to submit it by then. Their calendar is a little bit off than ours, but we will gather that data for kindergarten and for second grade and provide that to you. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this includes both English assessments and Spanish assessments combined. Finally, for our reinforcements, I received these reinforcements from our elementary reading coordinator, Ms. Marissa Perez, who provided, we're going to reinforce, we're going to continue the work that we do with the HMH foundational skill routines, structured literacy and U updates, and monitor implementation of small group instruction, using those methods that we use in Tier 1 instruction. Again, these particular components, ladies and gentlemen, come from the Tier 1 Guaranteed Viable Curriculum and the training of our teachers on the science of reading. Refinements, coaching cycles, coaching cycles focus on priority grades, grades 1 and 2, on 2-week cycles. I brought that to you at the beginning of the year. They are continuing to do that every 2 weeks, working with groups in grades 1 and 2. And of course, instructional coaches who are in who are in the field, on the ground, at the campus, are supporting the Tier 1 construction. With this, we have a superintendent's evaluation. It's a monitor, even though we saw some really high gains in first and K, or in kindergarten and second grade, we still have some challenges that we're working on in first grade, but we're not over yet, right? Not over to the end of the year, we come back to that third end of year material. So we're at monitoring. Okay. This looks familiar, right? Dr. Balsuka presented this, so we're going to move on from this. This is our presentation of the fine arts, which Ms. Lins has already done. And now I'm going to talk to you about the teacher incentive a lot. Mr. Rios, I don't believe that I put it in here, but do you have a presentation for TIE spending that you can pull up? Thank you. Teacher incentive allotment, ladies and gentlemen, is a program that was brought up by the legislature to provide funding for teachers. And if you look up there, you see those three circles: recognized, exemplary, and master. This program looks at how our teachers do in you can advance to the next slide. There we go. We're going to talk about the TIA purpose, designations and funding, task force spending plan committee, TA distribution of funds, designations and timelines, and compensation charts. All right. So the function of this, ladies and gentlemen, is retention of top teachers in the field that have a realistic path to a competitive annual salary. In other words, if they want to continue and getting promotions, they may need to go and become an administrator or a counselor. Something other than what they do right now, which is very well, that's becoming a teacher. Recruitment to attract and keep effective educators in the classroom and incentivize teaching at challenged campuses. Board members, what I want you to walk away from tonight is this slide. If anything we say tonight, walk away with this slide. There's three levels. There's recognized, there's exemplary, and there's masters. Recognized teachers can get paid in the state of Texas between $3,000 and $9,000. Due to our economic or at-risk numbers, economic disadvantage, the average campus allotment for Edgewood is $7,550. For an exemplary teacher, which is the top 20% in the state, the average is between $6,000 and $18,000. Edgewood is $15,029. Top 5% in the state, masters, between $12,000 and $32,000. Edgewood teachers' average is $27,049 for a master's designation. If you are a nationally board certified teacher in any area, if you carry that certification, you are automatically a recognized teacher and are able to get those funds. Okay, so this is our TIA task force. I put that in there because these individuals helped develop this back in 2022, went over 2 years. This is our 24 TIA spending plan committee. We're meeting again tomorrow afternoon. And here's something I need to tell the board members. Of the distribution of funds, 90%, at least 90%, of TIA funds must be used for teacher compensation on the campus where the designated teacher works. We cannot use that money for other teachers or other campuses. It's got to be for teachers on that campus. 10%, district shall retain 10% of the TIA funds for administrative costs and fees. I want to give you a timeline real quickly. So we're in January, February. We just came in February. Class rosters, submission snapshot data. Districts are designated teachers and national board certified, and we verify the years of service. March to April, we have access to download the data and to download the money. We have a deadline of March 31st. That means any teacher who has left the district before that winter day roster no longer are eligible. Now, why is that? If I have a master teacher, why would it be that that teacher's not eligible? This is for scores they had last year. Remember, the goal of this is retention. We want them to stay in the classroom. If they left, then they're no longer eligible. Okay? So that's the big date right here. And then in April, we find out who's designated to get the money, we confirm it, and then we have till August 31st to spend this money. In other words, distribute it to eligible or designated teachers. And then September 1, guess what TA does? They pay us back. It's a little bit delayed gratification. Okay, so this is the designation compensation chart. Here's a chart for 21-22. Now just look at the very top. Alonso Perales, if you were recognized in 21-22, that was $8,040. If you were an exemplary teacher, it was $16,081. If you were a master teacher, it was $28,800. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at 22-23. Without us, it's now $78,12. Masters $15,625, masters $28,041. Good numbers, but notice it's changed from the year before. Why is that? Remember, we have teachers, we have students who come and go, so the demographics of our at-risk and the demographics of our economically disadvantaged changes slightly. But nonetheless, Edgewood, if you can look down and up and down those numbers, significant amounts of money. Okay, so with that, again, I want you to walk away with this. We're going to be coming to you and on the 20th of this month with the final compensation plan. I believe, I don't want to speak, it will be Mr. Trevino, but we want to make sure that we approve this, and that way perhaps the subsequent month in March, she'll come to you with the actual compensation plan to approve this. Mr. Trevino, did I speak? Thank you very much. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Like I said, when we find out about this, we're going to be real happy. We're going to have some happy teachers. We feel very confident this year. Thank you. Okay. Can we go back to that other presentation, sir? That's the teacher incentive allotment. The next piece is the discussion to terminate the Senate Bill 1882 contract agreement between Edgewood ISD and Institute for School and Community Partnerships for Winston Intermediate School of Excellence. Basically, what we have in here is a component lifted from the actual contract, and this is called termination by mutual consent. This agreement will be terminated at any time without cause by mutual written agreement of operating partners in the district if said termination is effective no sooner than the end of the current school year. Each of the parties agrees that it will not agree to the said agreement. So with that, we've had Ms. Salinas. Would you care to comment on that?
Ever since board action was taken on November 12th to close Winston Intermediate School of Excellence, I immediately began to engage in conversation with the 1882 operating partner. We have decided that we would like, based on the situation at hand, to engage in mutual consent and termination of the contract. And so we are currently working with our attorneys to draft what that will look like. Dr. Henrietta Munoz will be working with her board to determine when that will go to action on the Tamusa side. It's possible that that could happen as early as their next board meeting on February the 14th, but I'll find out more later on this week and provide you with an update on what action they have taken in the board update. But again, there's no school to operate, and so this is the, closing out of an approved previous contract.
Question? Questions?
Are you able to share with us when you find out like their board meeting times and dates and location? My other question is, because if I can also see like their original contract that we did whenever they were first brought into like the 1882 partner. Another question is like, who has the discussion, like what happens with all like the facilities stuff, like the desks and all that?
Yeah, this is not a situation where there is a breach of contract in any way, shape, or form. We know that when we first started these partnerships, there were a lot of grants that were written by Edgewood ISD so that the schools could get things like furniture to uphold their model. I have been working with the Texas Education Agency to ensure that we are appropriately repurposing the equipment, some of the furniture, and all of those things. So we'll be following all of the proper protocol to ensure that that new furniture is in the hands of students in our schools. And so we're working on a plan.
Another question is, I know the 1882 operating partner, they had like a little ceremony and they showed us like their community, like they had like a building with, I believe, community partners. What's gonna happen to those, like now that the contract's gonna be empty?
So we are working to ensure that whatever community partnerships that are existing in our schools that are benefiting all of our students because they're housed there at the community center, that we will still kind of work with them to ensure that we keep the services. So they kind of brought them in, but that doesn't mean that we can't continue to utilize those services. Yes.
And for this 1882, I know a lot of 1882s are different. Just because they are all different, there's different partners. But in terms of staffing, for this 1882, does Edgewood ISD have the full authority of staffing or the 1882?
So by contract, the operating partners have the autonomy to determine what type of staffing model that they want to have. Maybe that's an additional counselor because they do a special social emotional component in their curriculum or their model. Maybe it's an additional assistant principal, additional teacher that's not in our traditional schools, like our International Baccalaureate candidate school that they offer Spanish, right? And that's not traditional. So yes, they have the autonomy. They work with our human resource department to ensure that because there are employees that we bring any compensation changes or anything along with our packages. But yes, they do. But they also have to do that with the constraints of their budgets.
And then before the regular board meeting, if you can just if you can please provide me like a list of where the staff members are going to be relocated in our district and how many are going to be leaving our district.
Thank you for that question.
Your first question was about the date and time of the board meeting for Toulouse. We can provide that to the board. The other piece is that you asked the information regarding staffing. I believe that's a piece that Ms. Trevino will be providing to Dr. Hernandez, and how that goes out with the board. We'll let that out. Did I miss a question? I think I did. I think you also asked for the agreement. Did you ask for the contract agreement? Yeah. Yeah, we can try that. We know that. You got it?
Yep, got it.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the next section. And this is our science selection committee. Dr. Russell.
Good evening, board, trustees. This is an amendment, as you know, in the fall, Dr. Silva, along with our coordinators, came forth to ask for a list of individuals who will be assisting us to select the instructional materials for this adoption, which is science, CTE, and social studies. And so what we're doing here is we're adding teachers to that list, and it's because it's tied directly to the other item that we're presenting, which is the personal financial literacy class course that we gotta add. And so we added 3 teachers, which is under CTE. You'll see them there, Memorial, Kennedy, and it's under the personal financial literacy and economics course. And it's because they're gonna go ahead and vet the materials for that new course that we're looking to approve, because it is a TA mandate that we have to offer. So since we're doing this, we're just adding people to vet those instructional materials. So that's why we have to amend this list. Which then, the next item, which you'll see in the next couple of slides, if you want to look, here it is. It's this one here, and that's the creation of that course. So the teachers that we added to the list are gonna help us vet materials for this course. So we just wanna make sure that all the materials that are gonna be offered are vetted, and we're gonna be able to have access to them in the event that kids choose to take the course. We just have to make sure that it's offered.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Dr. Magnus? Oh, sorry.
I don't know if you mentioned, but what high schools will this course be offered at? Other than these?
Yes, Mr. Valdez, the question is what high schools have by TA mandate, you have to make it available. And so when they're doing the course offerings, we're making it available. Yes, it's by mandate.
If you'll click, thank you. Madam President, Board of Trustees, we're looking to amend our teacher evaluation appraiser roster to include the interim principal at Gus Garcia University School. And so we'll be bringing this item forward on February the 20th.
I forgot to mention for the work session for 5C about the Winston, also what does that mean? Like the current teacher's grade level they're teaching, and I also want to know what grade levels they'll be teaching at other schools. Thank you.
Ms. Lynn?
My last one. Wanted to bring for your consideration and approval a contract agreement with Steady State Impact Strategies. During the Team of 8 training, we talked about, the strategic plan implementation and the need for outside evaluation in support of that work. And so Steady State Impact Strategies has provided a lot of guidance to us around a lot of different offerings that we have, to include the teacher incentive allotment, also a lot of our grants. What we want this person to do is give us some deliverables, and so we will be working with Steady State Impact Strategies pending approval to launch a new appraisal system. So we've talked a lot about accountability, key performance indicators, and metrics, and so we are going to be outsourcing this work to ensure that we have outside evaluation and the expertise around design development, construction of metrics, and organizational effectiveness training. This would also include some outside focus group conversations with teachers and leaders so that we can get the information we need to effectively evaluate the components in the district strategic plan and goals. Yes, sir.
How much will this contract cost? And where will the funds be coming from?
Thank you. The contract is about $46,730, I believe, and they would be coming from ESSER funds for strategic planning and development. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think at this time, Ms. Rita Martinez.
Do we want to break? Phil, do we want to
Sorry?
Do we wanna allow a break? No? Yeah.
Yes?
I
Break
suggest,
time?
yeah,
Y'all
I
have a
suggest.
break? 5 minutes. 5 minute break time.
Thank you. No, not on me. Wait. No, my daughter took it. Sorry. Let me ask if anybody else did. Mr. Guerra, we're checking. Okay. In the building.
I should have taken some, but I didn't think about it. I was trying to get over here.
Yeah, no, I had it in the car, but young ladies, they
Yeah,
need it.
yeah, that happens. I know how that is.
8:45 to 9:15. Yeah, it's a come and go. So.
Yeah, will be. My wife and I'll be there.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably for about 15, 20 minutes.
Sounds good.
I don't know about the council meeting, so
That's on Thursday.
I was going to try and make it out.
If not, I got Frank.
Okay.
Remember, Castillo says he doesn't work.
Right. And then the other one's
March 22nd, yeah. Yeah, but I'll reach out to you guys again.
No, what about the team board? I was supposed to go to that.
So Dr. H switched it to Mr. Something. I think he said he is available. I'll double check, and if you're still available,
No,
we'll get with you too. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'll keep you busy.
Okay. Yes, I know.
Set off the alarm.
Good. Hey guys, time for us to regroup. It's been 5 minutes. I'm getting like you now.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This Miriam Martinez will continue. But I do want to make a statement though before she does get started, is that we had an agenda item that was titled Agenda Item Study Session A, the whole school board with their presentation regarding North Star Governance Mindset with Deanne Drummond. Unfortunately, she had to cancel. I didn't want to make that statement. I don't know if later.
Good evening, board members, colleagues, and those others present, community members. So tonight you're going to hear several presentations. A lot of the items are going to be recurring. We're going to have Mr. Williams, Ms. Trevino, and Ms. McCool present tonight. Mr. Greathouse is representing us at a conference in Austin today. So this is a long agenda, but I promise you we're not going to make it that long. It looks really long, but again, there's some recurring items. We're going to go over all of these tonight in anticipation of the board meeting next, or in 2 weeks. As always, all the work that we do, we are trying, Salinas just mentioned an item, she talked about getting a contract approved. It's all anchoring the work that we do to the goal so that we have an evaluative tool to measure everything that we do to make sure that we're all steering in the right direction or in the same direction for our students. So I wanted to tie that back into Ms. Alina's request for that contracted services. Our priorities have not changed. You will see that our priorities are embedded in the goals that we're working towards. And these are the priorities that the board carved out and created several years ago. We continue to work towards those same priorities. So tonight, the first agenda item I want to discuss is agenda item 5H. It is for Petillo, Brown and Hill. And yes, we just approved the financial statements in December. We are already asking the board to approve us to use Petillo, Brown and Hill. This is going to be the 5th year that we use the same audit firm, which is finally giving us momentum. We want them to start the audit process. You see the schedule there, it's really aggressive. We want to start the work in April, even though our year does not end until June. That's why we have the agenda item so early. So the preliminary work will start in April, and the hope is that we finish the financial statements by October, so that we don't have to wait until December to get them approved. Any questions about that item? Okay. The next is a request for proposal 23024, and Mr. Williams can elaborate a little bit more of those questions, but this is recurring. We're doing this pretty much for everything that we can so that we get a deep bench when we're requiring services or materials for PPS. In this case, we are recommending a multi-award for several vendors. I'm not going to read them to you, but they're listed there. And we are having that come up for approval. It is a brand new agenda item. Agenda item J is another RFQ. This is for architectural and engineering services. We had your approval. We only had one deep when we went out for an RFQ the first time. This is a brand new RFQ, and in this case, we are requesting, or purchasing is recommending that we award to 4 different entities so that we have multi-vendors available and we can negotiate different pricing as opposed to depending on one vendor. Agenda item K, it is a budget amendment. This is our interfund transfers for the campuses. We're getting to the time of the year that they need to sweep monies for different events. In this case, there's professional development for all the high schools. We're trying to purchase some band instruments for the Fine Arts Academy. and moving some monies for band travel and the consultant specifically for the band at Memorial High School, and some ROTC funds for some competitions that they're going to engage in later on in the year. Yes, sir.
For the band travel, so will the school district just pay for their travel all together, or do they have to do it like?
In this case, it depends on the event. Most of the time, the UIL events, the district covers. If they have some other events, they may do a little bit of fundraising through their organization.
And would this one be considered a UIL band travel?
This is not for a specific travel event, Mr. Valdez. They're requesting to sweep funds, so they may use it for several. We have like Battle of the Flowers and some events, so this is not for one specific event. They're just moving monies to finish out the year. So it's not for a specific event, so I can't answer that question specifically. But they do have like the parades and stuff like that that are coming up, they're planning on attending. Okay?
District pays for everything, so like all their activities?
It depends on how much money the accounts have, because they go to some competitions, and Mr. Lugo's not here. I'm gonna have to do some research on that. So I can tell you, we don't always pay 100% for everything.
Isn't this mainly for the bus, paying for the buses to get them to point A and entry fee?
We do pay for those stuff, those things, yes, sir. Yeah, especially for all UIL events. Yeah, we try to cover most of the costs. And transportation is getting expensive, unfortunately. So these are recurring items. These are the donations. In November, we had already brought November, so I want to clarify that we had already brought the November donations. We had a check that was missed from the compadre, so we wanted to make sure that we honored their donation and brought it back up to the board. That was for November, so you'll see, that's why we skipped December. I have to go back to November because we had missed an item, and then the January donations are all listed there for your review. These are informational items, but you'll notice that we stacked November and December. Again, these, because of the short month in December, we didn't wrap up the financial statements, so those will be included in this month's agenda. P&Q, tax collections, the same thing, November, December will be in the report for your review. These don't have to be approved, but we will include them as part of the information. Then I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Williams.
Okay, board members, good evening again. Staff and colleagues and community that may be watching online. I have one item, this item R. This is not an action item, board members. You will not take a vote. It's for informational purposes only. By policy, board policy 6 local says that anytime you make a purchase over $50,000, it comes to you for approval, consideration of approval. This item is for furniture for the library remodel at Fine Arts Academy. The total of this furniture purchase is $71,870. So why are we asking for your approval? Under 6 local, there are several categorical exemptions. And so the purchasing department brought that to our attention. And so with that exemption is exemption 3. If the board has already approved a bidding process on approved contract, and this one fell under RFP 21-009. So with that, we just want to be transparent and help you understand why it's not coming to you for action. Oh, yeah. Warehouse updates, we kind of touched on this earlier, and a lot of the thunder was stolen, for lack of a better term. So, Madam President, if it's okay with you, some questions have already been raised, some answered. I think there are still some questions out there that may have not been fully vetted. And so I want to be able to bring you on the Friday board update a full one-pager from A to Z, starting from when we made the purchase, answer some questions in there, and present that to the board in the Friday board update, and hopefully that detailed one-pager will answer the questions, even though that haven't been asked. And any questions that arise from that one-pager, just send them down through board operating procedures, and we'll get them to me, and I'll answer
Yes,
those
sir.
questions.
Thank you very much.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
I just had a question about the library purchase, because you're saying like anything over like $50,000, but the purchase is 71,000, but you're saying that there was an exemption? What do you mean by that?
Thank you, sir. Board policy CH local states that any purchase over $50,000 must have be authorized by the board of trustees. Also in that same policy, there are 5 categorical exemptions. I said 5, there may be 6, but there are several. Exemption number 3, if the board has previously approved a contract or a bid, which RFP, request for proposal 21009, which was approved by the board in 2021. Matter of fact, it was April 24th, 2024, I'm sorry. April, I don't have the date that it was approved. But it runs through, that RFP runs through April 24th, 2024. So with that being said, we can use that categorical exemption in purchase, or make this purchase, because the board has already approved that bid.
And also on the contract for the individual,
This is just one purpose. I was also looking for the contract for the library furniture. It says Dr. Vaughn, but I don't believe he's like, it says shipped to Dr. Vaughn, but I don't believe his email is active anymore in the school district. But I was also going to ask maybe for like a reference, if you can, because I think that this is a rendering, right? Maybe with the classroom, like if there is a rendering, if we can see like how the library will look with the furniture, if possible.
I didn't understand the second question.
A rendering, like if there's a rendering, like with the classroom or with the furniture, like an online rendering we can see of the library, like how it will look.
The rendering is, we have a rendering. So to answer the second question first, I can put that in front of you. The first question about Dr. Vaughn being on the quote. Dr. Vaughn is on the quote. He is separated from the district. Furniture will be delivered to the district. I'll receive it.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Madam President. Can I try and go through this really quickly? I know that we're going to do a marathon items here. So S, T, and U, for me, these are recurring items. So S and T are your monthly board reports that you get for professional staff, auxiliary and paraprofessional staff. Item U, this is also a recurring item, but these are all individuals who break contract. Of course, we still have individuals who are breaking contract currently, so we will bring in names. Those things we present to you through board updates as far as teachers who have broken contracts, so this is a recurring item, which is item U. The next 2 items are new items, so this is an addendum to the compensation that we are bringing to you. We are going to be adding security officers to our compensation plan. Currently, we do not have them on our compensation plan, but to help with the shortage that we are now facing as far as hiring officers, we want to give ourselves additional options. So right now, we're going to ask to add security officers to our compensation plan. We're also going to ask for an addition to add educational diagnosticians. Of course, the compensation plan has to be approved by our Board of Trustees. If positions are not approved, then we cannot currently fill them. So we are asking for your approval to add them to the current compensation plan for the upcoming school year. Both of these 2 positions are very hard to fill. Right now, we're facing some shortages in both areas as far as our security officers, police officers, our educational diagnosticians currently, our LSSPs, our evaluations. Currently, we are being asked to evaluate more students, and in doing so, we want to make sure that we can provide those services to our students. So we're asking to add these 2 positions to the compensation plan. Yes, sir.
What is the security officer like?
I was gonna say, what is the security officer, and they are not like our police department, correct?
They're a little bit different, but I'm going to go ahead and defer to Chief Quiroga, who's here to answer questions.
So, the security officer is what we're gonna be hiring is a level 3 security officer. They're gonna be armed, and they're gonna be commissioned by EPS. We already have a EPS commission for both police officers and security guards. level 3 security guards that carry firearms. We are innovative in our police department. We're going to do something completely different. So the state of Texas has a school marshal program. However, the frustrating part about that program is that only 3 entities in the state of Texas provide that training. So it's backlogged. Our plan, we're going to hire level 3 security guards that are armed. They're going to become part of our safety team. And we will be sending all our security guards in the school marshal training. What happens when you become a school marshal? Under Texas law, you become a special peace officer. So you do have the authority of a peace officer. However, that authority will only be limited to the 8 hours that you work for us. And I say 8 hours because that's a standard working day. However much time you're on the clock with us, that's when you will have your peace officer authority. So essentially, we will have police officers working at our campuses once we transition them over to school marshals. The only difference between a school marshal peace officer and a full-time peace officer is that a school marshal peace officer is only a peace officer while they're working. They don't have authority after they clock out. So that is our plan. We thought about it a lot. There is a nationwide shortage. We're going to make ourselves more competitive by doing this, and then we ultimately are going to deliver the same commitment to safety to our kids and community again. Go ahead.
Just a little confused. This has no interference with, I know we did,
I'm a little confused, because does this have any interference? Because I know we did that resolution that the state mandated for us to an armed officer at every campus or not in your police department. I'm a little confused. Will this affect that resolution we passed?
It's actually going to help us meet that resolution. What?
So with this, like adding the security officers, will it be at all the campuses or just a few?
So our goal is to have a security guard and eventually transfer to school marshal at every elementary campus.
So we might need the commitment because we already have the officers at the middle and high school.
Yes, sir.
So if we do meet that commitment, will we be amending the resolution to have like an armed person at all our campuses?
The resolution already states that we're going to have armed people at all our campuses.
When we passed the resolution, it was talking about like the police department. I think the resolution was a little different. Maybe we can go back and ask Dr. Hernandez.
I think I'm trying to understand your question. We will have a police officer at every elementary school. It's going to complement the resolution. Right now, under the resolution, we're still meeting the state mandate by having our patrol officers oversee the campuses, but we want an actual body at the campus itself. You're welcome, sir.
I have a question about that.
Yes, sir.
The educational diagnostics, so what exactly does that entail, like as a job description?
Okay, the diagnosticians are a little bit different from the LSSPs, and we have our special ed coordinator here, and she'll go ahead and explain the difference in the two, so we can go ahead and give you an explanation on that.
Educational diagnosticians are part of our evaluation staff when we are evaluating students for disabilities. They're able to complete evaluations in all areas except for autism and emotional disturbance.
Thank you. So these two positions, and we'll go ahead and give you some more information during the board updates, a little bit more detail, so you can have that as well. The next item that I have is item W, and what I have here is, this is a resolution, and you probably have seen these before if you're familiar with them. We had a school closure on January the 16th for one of our campuses because of a broken pipe. So in order to compensate our employees, we need to make sure that we get a resolution approved. Of
course, it is a partner-operated school. We have been in coordination and working in partnership with the operating partner, and they are in agreement that we want to make sure that all our individuals that were affected and impacted by the closure, that still get compensated for that day. So that's the purpose of this resolution. Yes, sir.
I have a question, because when the other school districts, like SAIC, when they had their schools like closed, the employees were like doing like phone calls home and still working. But for this day, the employees just had the day off?
Yes, at this time, yes, the employees did not come in. So there are times when if we have different resources that we have, we do bring staff members in to, I guess, to do different services. But in this particular case, the staff members did not come in at that time. I believe that on mine, those are the only agenda items that I have. Here, what I have is a staffing update for you. So on January the 26th, 2024, we had a deadline to assign all of our Winston Elementary staff. Those placements did go out. All individuals have been given an assignment. We do have individuals that are district staff members, right, like our parent liaisons, they're split by campuses. Those will be assigned by, of course, our district staff members to see where the need is greater. If we have larger enrollment, then those individuals will be servicing those campuses. But every single staff member there did receive a notification. The deadline for the red campus staff is on February the 23rd. So those individuals will also be receiving their assignments as of that day. Then we have on March the 6th, we have an upcoming faculty meeting that we continuously work. The redesign transition team has been meeting, and we're ready and prepared for any questions that maybe our staff may have that they may be inquiring. So we want to make sure that we're going to address them face to face. So just wanted to give you an update on where we are. And just to give you a little bit more detail on the Winston staff, we were at about 84% of staff members received their first choice. We gave them 3 options to give us what their choices were. 84% of our staff received the placement that they selected as their first choice. Then we have the other percentage, and these are more specialized areas that may be areas that are specific to a certain grade level. Those individuals right now that we have, and it's more of our clerical staff that selected a particular campus, but there is not a current vacancy, right, that we can place them. Not to say we won't in the future, so we continue to have those open dialogues with individuals and letting them know when vacancies are opening up, if they're still interested in some of those positions at different campuses. So just wanted to give you an update on that as far as where we are with staffing, if there's any questions. You have a question? No questions? Okay, perfect. Next one is actually Ms. Maculas, and I know this is our second and final reading. We had this policy came out already last month. You should have been receiving board updates as far as what they are. We have about, I believe it's about 6 to 8 local policies that are being impacted here, and she kind of went over it briefly. I don't want to kind of labor this and continue to go on. I know she did go over these last month. But I'll go ahead and give you some time to review, and then if we have any questions. But again, this is the second and final reading for Ms. Maculas. If there's something that we're unable to answer, we'll go ahead and give her those questions, and she can answer those questions during the board update. Okay, and then I believe Ms. Amelia.
So in a couple of weeks, you all will be receiving, in the board updates, you all receive the board meeting minutes. Those are just there for you to review, and if there's any updates that you see that needs to be done, just let me know, and then we'll get those updated for you all on that.
So I'm not going to read this to you. Here are the next meetings that we have. We're preparing for the board performance planning meeting that's coming up next week. And obviously for the regular board meeting. And that, Mr. Chavez, Board President, that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. I feel that concludes our session for presentations.
Thank you very much. Board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Mr. Guerra moves, Mr. Valdez second. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. All those against, raise your hand, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.